Hi guys, this is Connie, and as you know, if you've been following along with some of the Connie reads, we finished Max the Mighty, and before I pick up a brand new book, and thank you so much for your suggestions. I've gotten a lot of really great suggestions, like Where the Red Fern Grows and The Giver. I have The Giver somewhere. I kind of want to read The Giver out loud. But first, there is one book in my playlist that I have yet to finish, and I would like to do this today. And once we're finished with this, we'll jump into some of your suggestions. So keep sending them. I see them all. I may not respond, but I am doing the best that I can. And I want to make sure that I continue to do at least a Connie Reads Monday through Friday. So, without further ado, this is Connie Reads Another Fine Myth, Chapter 7. It's been almost a year since I've picked up this book. So here we go. Is there anything in the universe more beautiful and protective than the simple complexity of a spider's web? A quote from Charlotte. I closed my eyes for concentration. This was more difficult than drawing energies from the force line directly into my body. I pointed a finger for focus, pointing at a spot some 5 yards distance from me. The idea of drawing energies from a distant location and controlling them would have seemed impossible to me until Oz pointed out it was the same as the candlelighting exercise I had already mastered. Now it did not seem impossible, merely difficult. Confidently, I narrowed my concentration, and in my mind's eye saw a gleaming blue light appear at the designated point. Without breaking my concentration, I moved my finger overhead in a slow arc. The light followed the lead, etching a glow-blue trail in the air behind it. As it touched the ground again, or where I sensed the ground to be, I moved my finger again, moving the light into the second arc of the protective pentagram. It occurred to me that what I was doing was not unlike forming the normal flat pentagram Garkin had used at the hut. The only difference being that instead of being inscribed on the floor, it was etched overhead with its points dipping downward to touch the earth. It was more an umbrella than a border. The other major difference, I thought, as I completed the task, was that I was doing it. Me, Skeeve. What I had once watched with awe, I was now performing as routine. I touched the light down in its original place, completing the pentagram. Quietly pleased, I stood for a moment, eyes closed, studying the glowing blue lines etched in my mind's eye. "Terrific, kid," came Oz's voice. "Now what say you damp it down a bit before we draw every peasant and demon hunter in the country?" Surprised, I opened my eyes. The pentagram was still there, not imagined in my mind, but actually glowing overhead. Its cold blue light gave an eerie illumination to the scene that negated the warmth of our little campfire. "Sorry, Oz." I quickly eased my control of the energy and watched as the lines of the pentagram faded to invisibility. They were still there. I could feel their presence in the night air above me. Now, however, they could not be seen by my normal vision. More for the joy of it than out of any lack of confidence, I closed my eyes again and looked at them. They glowed in their shimmering beauty, a cooler, reassuring presence to counter the impatience of the red-gold glow of the force-line spear pointing doggedly toward tomorrow's path. "Sit down, kid, and finish your lizard bird." We were out of the forest proper now, but despite the presence of the nearby road, game was still plentiful and fell ready victim to my snares. Oz still refused to join me in the meals, insisting alcohol was the only thing in this dimension worth consuming. But I dined frequently and royally. "You know, kid," he said, looking up from his endless sword sharpening, "you're really coming along pretty well with your studies." "What do you mean?" I mumbled through a bone, hoping he would elaborate. "You're a lot more confident with your magic. You better watch your controls, though. You have enough energy in that pentagram to fry anything that bumped against it." "I guess I'm still a bit worried about the assassins." "Relax, kid. It's been 3 days since we set him up in that ambush of Quigley's. Even if he didn't stop them, they'll never catch up with us now." "Did I really summon up that much power?" I urged, eager for praise. "Unless you're actually engaged in magical battle, wards are used as warning signal only. If you put too much energy into them, you have 2 potentially bad side effects. First, you can draw unnecessary attention to yourself by jarring or burning an innocent bystander who blunders into it. Second, if it actually reaches a magical opponent, it probably won't stop him, just alert him that he has a potentially dangerous foe in the area. I thought it was a good thing if I could summon up lots of power. Look, kid, this isn't a game. You're tapping into some very powerful forces here. The idea is to strengthen your control, not see how much you can liberate. If you get too careless with experimenting, you could end up helpless when the actual crunch comes. Oh, I said, unconvinced. Really, kid, you've got to learn this. Let me try an example. Suppose for a moment you're a soldier assigned to guard a pass. Your superiors put you on the post and give you a stack of 10-pound rocks. All you have to do is watch to see if anyone comes, and if they do, drop a rock on their head. Are you with me so far? I guess so. Fine. Now it's a long, boring day, and you have lots of time to think. You're very proud of your muscles, and you decide it's a bit insulting that you've only been given 10-pound rocks. 20-pound rocks would be more effective, and you think you could handle them as easily as the 10-pound variety. Logical? I nodded vaguely, still not sure what he was driving at. Just to prove the point to yourself, you heft a 20-pound rock, and sure enough, you can handle it. Then it occurs to you, if you can handle a 20-pounder, you should be able to handle a 40-pounder, or even a 50-pounder. So you try. Then it happens. He was getting so worked up, I felt no need to respond. You drop it on your foot, or you pull a muscle, or you keel over from heat exhaustion, or any one of 100 other things. Then where are you? He leveled an accusing finger at me. The enemy strolls through the pass you're supposed to be guarding, and you can't even lift the original 10-pound rock to stop them. All because you indulged in needless testing of idiotic muscle power. I was impressed and gave the matter serious thought before replying. I see what you're saying, Oz, but there's one flaw in your example. The key word is needless. Now, in my case, it's not a matter of having to stack a 10-pound... Now, in my case, it's not a matter of having a stack of 10-pound rocks that will do the job. I have a handful of gravel. I'm trying to scrounge around for a rock big enough to do some damage. True enough, Oz retorted, but the fact remains, if you overextend yourself, you won't be able to use what you already have. Even gravel can be effective if used at the right time. Don't underrate what you've got or what you're doing. Right now, you're keeping the Finder Spear going, maintaining the wards, and keeping my disguise intact. That's a lot for someone of your abilities to be doing simultaneously. If something happened right now, which would you drop first? Too late. You're already dead. You won't have time to ponder energy problems. That's why you always have to hold some back to deal with immediate situations while you rally your energies from other activities. Now do you see? I think so, Oz, I said haltingly. I'm a bit tired. Well, think about it. It's important. In the meantime, get some sleep and try to store up your energies. Incidentally, let the Finder Sphere go for now. You can summon it up again in the morning. Right now, it's just a needless drain. Okay, Oz. How about your disguise? Better keep that. It'll be good practice for you to maintain both that and the wards in your sleep. Speaking of which... Right, Oz. I drew my acquired assassin's cloak about me for warmth and curled up. Despite his gruff manner, Oz was persistent that I get enough sleep as well as food. Sleep did not come easily, however. I found I was still a bit wound up over casting the wards. Oz? Yeah, kid? How would you say my powers right now stack up against the devils? What devils? The assassins that were following us. I keep telling you, kid, those weren't devils, those were imps. What's the difference? I told you before, imps are from Imper, and devils are from Diva, I finished for him. But what does that mean? I mean, are their powers different or something? You better believe it, kid, Oz snorted. Devils are some of the meanest characters you'd ever not want to tangle with. They're some of the most feared and respected characters in the dimensions. Are they warriors? Mercenaries? Oz shook his head. Worse, he said. They're merchants. Merchants? Don't sneer, kid. Maybe merchants is too sedate a phrase to describe them. Trader Supreme is more like it. Tell me, Oz. Well, history was never my forte, but as near as I can tell, one time The entire dimension Deva faced economic ruin. The land suffered a plague that affected the elements. Fish could not live in its oceans, plants could not grow in their soil. Those plants that did grow were twisted and changed and poisoned the animals. The dimension was no longer able to support the life of its citizenry. I lay staring up at the stars as Oz continued his tale. Dimension travel, once a frivolous pastime, now became the key to survival. Many left Deva, migrating singly or in groups to other dimensions. Their tales of their barren, miserable homeland served as a prototype for many religious groups' concept of an afterworld for evil souls. The ones who stayed, however, decided to use the power of dimension travel in a different way. They had established themselves as traders, traveling the dimensions, buying and selling wonders. What is common in one dimension is frequently rare in another. As the practice grew, they became rich and powerful, also the shrewdest hagglers in all of the dimensions. Their techniques for driving a hard bargain have been passed down from generation to generation and polished until now they are without equal. They are scattered through the dimensions, returning to Deva only occasionally to visit the bazaar. The bazaar? I prompted. No one can travel extensively in all the dimensions in one lifetime. The bazaar on Deva is the place the devils meet to trade with each other. An off-dimension visitor, there will be sore pressed or not loser. An off-dimension visitor there will be sore pressed to not lose over much less hold its own. It's said if you make a deal with the devil, you'd be wise to count your fingers afterward, then your arms and legs, then your relatives. I get the picture. How about the imps? The imps, Oz said the word as if it tasted bad. Imps are inferior to the devils in every way. How so? They're cheap imitations. Their dimension, Emperor, lies close to Deva, and the devils bargain with them so often that they're almost bankrupt from the irreversible fair deals. To hold their own, they've taken to aping the devils, attempting to peddle wonders through the dimensions. To the uneducated, they may seem clever and powerful. In fact, occasionally, they try to pass themselves off as devils. Compared to the masters, however, they're bungling incompetence. He trailed off into silence. I pondered his words, and they prompted another question. Say, Oz? Yeah, kid? What dimension do you come from? Perv. Does that make you a pervert? No, that makes me a pervect. Now shut up. I assumed he wanted me to go to sleep, and maintained silence for several minutes. There was just one more question I had to ask, however, if I was going to get any sleep at all. Oz, keep it down, kid. What dimension is this? This is Claw, kid. Now for the last time, shut up. What does that make me, Oz? There was no answer. Oz? I rolled over to look at him. He was staring out into the darkness and listening intently. What is it? I think we've got company, kid. As if in response to his words, I felt a tremor in the wards as something came through. I bounded to my feet as two figures appeared at the edge of the firelight. The light was dimming, but it was sufficient to reveal the fact that both figures were wearing the hooded cloaks of assassins. And the gold side was out. And that's chapter 7. These might be a little bit longer because these are a little bit more hefty chapters, but it's good to get back into another fine myth. Be careful with that and enjoy, please, and thank you. I'll see you tomorrow for the next chapter. Bye.